Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. We'll certainly try to continue with that conversation on WHO. We apologize that there was a little bit of a break in our communication there. Let's move on to another conversation. The Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation launched their 15th iteration of their impact report. The foundation hosted a webinar entitled Impact Through Partnership, which took place this morning. To talk to us more on this, we're now joined by the CEO of the Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation, Mmabatho Maboya. Thank you so very much for joining us here on SABC News, Mmabatho. As a start, let's talk about the report as a whole, the major milestones of the foundation, and of course, there would of course be challenges as well that the foundation would have faced throughout the year, particularly given the fact that we've been dealing with COVID-19. The webinar was held this morning at 10 a.m. Take us through what happened and really an overview of the major conversations that happened during that time.
Good afternoon, Flo. Thanks for having me. We held the webinar this morning to discuss part of the insights that we've come out of our impact report. And the impact report is because last year in 2019, the foundation marked its 15th anniversary. And it was important for us to mark the occasion by celebrating our journey, but most importantly, to look at how we've sustained our track record and how we can grow much more with our partners. So the conversations this morning were mainly on discussing what the findings were and the insights that came from the report. Part of those were around how we can enhance and strengthen the manner in which we partner with others, particularly around the private sector partnerships, and how we can model our way of partnering with government to make sure that we can enhance delivery of social services to beneficiaries.
You know, we often hear President Cyril Ramaphosa talking about big business, and you're talking as well about partners and partnerships. And there's no doubt that, there's definitely some corporate partners involved. Let's talk about these partnerships that you kind of allude to, and not just in terms of giving back, Mmabatho, but because I think, anyone can really sort of sign a check from whatever surplus might have been left. But really what I'm getting at too is more about focusing specifically on the advancement of equality, which has been a major issue, and of course that of transformation. What are these partnerships then sort of bringing to the table in this regard, as opposed to just sort of signing whatever check that needs to be signed and putting it aside? What are we doing in terms of really advancing equality and transformation, which I've also heard the President talk about at the same time?
Yes. So for the foundation, it's quite important that when we mean partnership, it's not necessarily a financial relationship. We seek to have establish a common ground and establish shared values with together our beneficiaries and all the partners that are involved in all the programs that we are implementing. Now we see ourselves mainly as model builders. So what we do is that we conceptualize programs that many are unable to put in funding so that they can be scaled and replicable. And we are doing that because we appreciate that the work that we're doing needs to tie in solidarity with global development goals, with national development goals, including the Africa 2063 goals. So the partnerships that we mainly go into as Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation involve joint and co-funding initiatives. Most of them we go into joint strategy making around delivering the goals, but most importantly knowing that we are addressing the actual needs. We have, throughout the 15 years, gone beyond just CSI funding. We've gone beyond just delivering on infrastructure. So if you look at our programs in education, they've evolved over the years. We started off just providing infrastructure, but we've realized that to have sustainability of a program, you need to intervene in a whole school and look at all aspects of a school. So that is how we approach partnership, and that's how we approach the programs that we implement, because it's quite important for us to see sustainability. Part of what the report has reflected was that planning an exit strategy when you are working on an intervention is quite important as conceptualizing the actual intervention. And those are some of the discussions that we had today to say, how do we purely monitor and evaluate and not just follow how much money has been contributed towards a program. So we find that for us, we are passionate about development, we're passionate about the people of South Africa, and our interest is to make sure that our work can contribute to building that inclusive and empowered society. Yeah. And that is why we work in areas of education and small business development.
And let's talk to those specifics then, because we can talk about, all these lovely things that are planned and all of that, but let's get into the nitty-gritty then of the issues and talk about actual real examples of what's to be done now, moving on from this particular webinar. I see that there was an emphasis on improving access to quality education, which you briefly just touched on there, and also a small business development. What are the plans that are put in place? I mean, tangent plans that we can see, that we will see moving forward from henceforth, especially when it comes to access to quality education. And I'm going to emphasize this, particularly because we've been sitting in this situation where, we've been exposed to some of the gaps in public schools and some of the problem areas within public schools due to us having this pandemic. It has exposed a lot of what's happening in our education sector. And I wonder if that was an opportunity for a foundation like yourself to sit down, take a look at those issues that you would have no doubt been exposed to at this time during COVID-19 and during lockdown, and said, this is what we're going to do, actual tangent measures that will then be put in place.
Thanks, Flo. Education is one of the central pillars of the work that we do. Now, being a foundation that has been around for 15 years and now coming into the next 15 years where we have experienced the global pandemic, what it has done is that it has showed the inequalities that normally are often hidden behind big slogans of service delivery and access to education. But what we are realizing right now is that although we are promoting access to quality education, there are two areas that need emphasis, and that is around teacher development to enable educators to deliver curriculum outcomes in a changed environment. And we acknowledge that moving on from beyond the lockdowns and beyond the COVID pandemic, those are some of the areas that would need to be enhanced, because our educators may have been trained and supported over the years in a different form of delivering education. And the second one is around the psychosocial support of both the educators and the learners. And we've picked up through even our pilot program that we are implementing in Botshabelo that there needs to be a connectedness of saying, how do we ensure that the socio-economic challenges that we know impact on the learning outcomes are supported and are attended to? And that is why most of our programs, as I said, that it's whole school development, that we are not interested mainly in the talk around the solutions, but getting down there and implementing. We have been looking at some of the challenges that affected those that are our bursary recipients, for instance, that, once you have delivered and assisted someone with school fees, what else do you need to support? And that holistic support are some of the tangible things that we look at. We try to say that, once our students are in final years, how do we support them for work readiness? How do we make sure that, some of them, the small barriers that are non-cognitive, that are not related to whether a person is intelligent or not, can be overcome? Because we know that those are some of the things that sort of hold us back. And the other one is around small business development. Government had put out quite a lot of support for small businesses, but because we work with 100% black businesses, we made sure that we organize those workshops that would enable all of them to apply and access the resources that are put out there. But most importantly is that we are working on transforming our ordinary incubation program, which we deliver through the 9 incubators that are around the country. We have now developed a virtual incubation platform which would enable any small business to attend to access the support programs and the business development programs that we have offered. These are some of the things that we believe that sustainability of the programs that we do. It's not about the figures that we can share today with the viewers, but it's more about, are we able to to provide value with integrity and transparency, as well as value to those beneficiaries that we would like to service. Because at the end of the day, we see this as a rotating wheel. We see our alumni that are graduating from both the small business incubation, from the bursary program, from the high schools, that they're able to come back into the cycle that we call the arc of life and continue serving others and servicing others.
All right, ma'am, it was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much for giving us your time here on SABC News. We certainly do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, that's Mmabatho Maboya, who is the CEO of the Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation. And they had, of course, their impact report webinar today, discussing a number of issues, including that of access to quality education and small business, which is where she left off there. Well, South Africans should brace themselves. There is risk of low